Welcome to the Value of Recruitment podcast with me, John Brooks. Sponsored by Atlas, the recruitment platform helping you become an AI-powered recruiter. This week, I'm joined by Clodagh Murphy, Director of Cathedral Appointments, a top regional recruitment agency in the Southwest. Before joining Cathedral, Clodagh was a Chief Operating Officer at a 60 million turnover technology firm and was responsible for hiring at all levels of the business. This gives her a brilliant perspective on both sides of the hiring relationship, and she shares some great insights into the minds of a hiring manager and how she looks back on those decisions now she's supporting hiring managers as a recruiter. During our conversation, Clodagh talks about the pressure hiring managers are under and the strategic value businesses can get by finding a recruitment partner who enables them to work faster and smarter. She shares why she chose to move into recruitment after a successful career in technology and uncovers some of the key ways that recruiters add value to their clients and to the wider community. We also talk about the importance of belief in being a valuable partner to your clients, and Clodagh shares some data on the impact an increased belief has made to her team. I love being able to talk about recruitment from different perspectives, and Clodagh certainly brings some real insights from her previous experience and her journey into recruitment. Enjoy the show. I hope you find it valuable. Clodagh, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, John. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's really nice to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation we're about to have.
Likewise. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, you were the Chief Operations Officer of a multi-million pound tech business, and you were responsible for hiring across the board. And since then, you've turned recruitment owner. So you've got a great perspective on recruitment and recruitment agencies from both sides. So much for us to talk about.
Yeah, no, good. I'm looking forward to it. And it is incredibly interesting when you move from one side of the pitch to the other side, just how much you appreciate I guess both sides of the coin, really.
Yeah, really excited to get into that. So let's start off with the biggest question. How valuable is recruitment in your eyes?
Oh, crikey. So as a hiring manager, when I was hiring, and a lot of people say this, but sometimes it's not necessarily followed through, but the most important assets to the business, to me, was my team. My team were the people and the people who worked in my organization. We were the people who made a difference. We were the people who grew the business. So in one of the businesses that I was part of, where I was actually a managing director, we took a business from 12 million to 40 million. And that didn't happen on its own. And it didn't happen because we had the most amazing strategy and we just sat back and watched it happen. It happened because of the people. So recruitment it's absolutely critical. And certainly some of the things I learned were getting it wrong can cost you 2 years. Because getting it wrong at a strategic level, you really don't know you've got it wrong until, you get to end of year one, and that's when you start to have some concerns. Then it takes you another few months to figure it out, and then you've got to go again and try and find somebody else. So it costs a long time when you get it wrong. So recruitment for me, when I was running the organizations I was running and when I was part of them, it was the cornerstone of the business, and it was what made the business grow.
I love that. I love to put numbers on things because most recruiters say, well, of course recruitment is valuable, but the idea of how do you turn a 12 million pound business into a 40 million pound business? You put the right people in the right place to do that. So that's worth the best part of 30 million. Again, that time scale, if you're trying to do that and you're trying to grow that business, triple that business in a 5-year time scale, and you make a 2-year mistake,
that's huge.
Then Absolutely. Suddenly that's taken you 7 years.
Yeah. And it's also, recruitment isn't just about getting a pawn on the chessboard or anything like that. It isn't just about finding your knight. It's actually about finding the individual that's going to fit in with the team, that's going to help drive the strategy, that's going to have the right culture and the right values, that takes the whole organization. That's all of the intangible stuff that is a critical part of that recruitment process. It's not just about, I've seen a CV and this person ticks all the boxes. That to me is probably not the smaller part. It's an important part, but the attributes, the attitude, the mindset, all of the other aspects, the ambition of the individual that's joining the team, all of those bits are incredibly important to them fitting in, and therefore the whole being greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
And that's the nuances of recruitment that's just critical.
Yeah, and that's the hard stuff.
Yeah.
The nuances are the hard bits. Matching CVs, matching skills to a role is easy in comparison to that nuance and that detail. That list was great that you just gave. You answered that from a hiring manager perspective. In terms of the value of recruitment, is there a different answer you give, or anything you've seen since becoming a recruiter?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I have, I've witnessed, the value of recruitment done well to our clients. It speeds up their whole process, and fundamentally, as a hiring manager or as a leader in a business that's got hiring managers working for it, it saves them time. I mean, time is the biggest. If I think about what is the biggest constraint that I have, it's actually not money. You can. And I'm not saying this lightly, but you can make more money, right? You can't make more time. And at a point where you're a hiring manager and you get a resignation, or you've got a growth plan, and therefore you've got some numbers that you've got to hit, because they're usually the 2 points that you will, or you might have a maternity cover or something like that. But you are constrained at that point in time. You are now needing to run faster just to catch up or just to stay still. So if it's a resignation of somebody strategic or somebody important in your team, then fundamentally their job now needs to be done as well as your job and as well as the rest of the team's job. So you've less time in the day. And by having a good recruitment partner that understands your business and understands how you operate, will ask you sensible questions and will give you sensible advice, that can save you enormous time. And that's a game changer in lots of ways, to stress levels, to how you hit your plan, and also to how your team perform and develop. Because actually, during this phase of time, if you're the hiring manager and you've got more people in your team, you're giving them less time if you're spending a lot of time sifting through CVs.
Yeah.
And often CVs aren't, they're not a good indication for starters. And some of them just won't be a right match for the role.
I mean, I love the phrase, being a partner, being a recruitment partner. In order to save that time, kind of following that logic, really clients and hiring managers need to be building that partnership before they have the problem, before they have the hiring problem. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I think if you can get to that place with your client, then I think that's the sweet spot in every sense of the word, and in every sense of working relationship. If you've got, if we've got a number of clients that work with us, and they'll come to us and say they've got some funding or they've got some growth, and this is what they want to do over the course of the next 12 months, and that you can have an input into, actually you're thinking of recruiting at that level. Let's just think about it in terms of the wider picture. And actually you can be a really good sounding board for them in terms of what they're trying to do and help them shape it. But we all know that actually in a lot of the recruitment that organizations like we do, and we're specialists in our area, the hiring managers can see it a little bit more transactional than that. And they don't think of us through the strategic lens. For those that do think of it through the strategic lens, there is no doubt that we save them time, we save them money, we help them get it more right than wrong. And as a result, they spend their time focusing on driving their business growth and their success. But there's a real divergence of types of clients out there. There's those that I would say are the top end of the pyramid, and then there's the others who you'll go down the pyramid and they'll be at varying degrees of where they value the recruiter or us as recruitment partners.
Yeah, and completely. And that's one of the messages I really want to get out as loudly as possible to as many people as possible, is that strategic advantage you can get as a business by working with a good recruiter is huge. It is that, tripling the size of the business in 5 years, not 7, or even doing it in 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and
yeah,
it's being able to pick up the phone to your recruitment partner and say, I've just had this resignation. It's really impactful because we're at this point in our plan, and I need somebody to parachute in tomorrow or next week to help us get over this hurdle while we recruit for the permanent person, and for your recruitment partner to be able to almost pull a rabbit out of the hat. Which, and they're not rabbits in hats, but we're so well connected in the business community and in the community we work in, particularly for people like us, where we're regional specialists. Then actually we do have a huge network of people that will be able to potentially, either not so much drop what they're doing, but fit somebody, a client in. If it's, I mean, I'm thinking about a recent conversation we had where they needed somebody to come in from a finance perspective to help with some work, and recognizing that then they needed to go and recruit on a permanent basis. We can help do that. And I think that's the value add that you don't necessarily get off your accountant or your solicitor or your other professional services support organizations that you might have in your ecosystem, and organizations that use us in that way. I've no doubt, and they've told us, we can be the difference between them, not being successful and not being successful, because it's not that extreme, but we can be the difference between helping their business get to the next stage, or slowing them down if it's not done well.
yeah, that's really interesting. I love to compare recruitment to other professional services. I think we're undervalued compared to most other professional services, like accountancy, like lawyers. But actually, I think the kind of stretch value, like you get a top quality recruiter really providing you strategic level value. There's more difference getting that from a top recruiter than there is having a top lawyer advising you or a top accountant advising you. Your having better accounts don't take you that much further.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, I think that's the richness that we can deliver across a broad breadth of different aspects of the running of a business, from operational delivery right the way through to your human resources, to your marketing. I mean, depending on the recruitment agency and where they sit, they can cover a lot of different facets, which is what we do, being regional specialists. So yeah, we can add, an enormous amount more value. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you wouldn't go to your accountant and say, well, we're not going to pay you until you've done our accounts for us. And you wouldn't go to the lawyer and say, well, we're not going to pay you until we sign the contract. Unfortunately, I think the market that we're in, that is the perception that exists amongst recruiters, which I think is probably because our barriers to entry into the recruitment industry are so low. So therefore, it's got mixed feedback from clients and from candidates on how they've experienced recruiters. All we can do is make sure that the way we operate, how we engage, the service that we deliver stands head and shoulders above anybody else. And then recognise that those who want to partner with us and who want to value the service that we offer, of which there's quite a few, will keep coming back to us again and again. And that's both clients and candidates.
Yeah.
So you almost need to rise above the competition that's out there if it's not at the right level.
I mean, from my perspective, I want clients to raise their expectations of what they can get from a recruiter, and change that perception of value, which I talk about so much. From your position as an agency owner, the advantage there, it's a low barrier to entry. If you really invest and go high, then you can stand out from, it's a very busy market, but there is an opportunity to stand out.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And I think as well, if you're organized, if you're an owner or manager of your organization, or you're a lead in your organization, and you've got a plan that you need to deliver to, then fundamentally, as that hiring manager or as that business lead, you're looking for enablers that will help you do it faster, cleverer, smarter, whatever the words are, to get there in the most efficient way. Most good managers, most good leaders want to get there in the most efficient way. And that's not, efficiency at all costs, but they want to get there in the right way. And I think if by and large, those people are looking for the right person, the right organization to actually partner with, and it can be partner with the tiniest P or partner with the biggest P, it doesn't really matter. Once they're looking at it through the lens of this organization or this recruitment or a recruitment partner can add value to what I'm trying to do so I get there faster, going back to time being the one constraint I think we all have, then that can make an enormous difference to the organisation and to us in our ability to do our jobs well. Because at the end of the day, we all want to close the door on the business in the evening and feel like we've done a good job. You want that sense of satisfaction that actually you've placed the candidate in a good organisation, or you've helped a client make the right decision, which may be that they don't hire somebody because the people aren't quite right and we've got to go again. It doesn't matter. It is about the organisation having the right people in their teams so that their businesses are growing. Because, in the region we're in, we all have children. Our children are going to grow up in this region. Hopefully they might decide to stay in this region. We want to have a really strong ecosystem of businesses here that's continuing to grow and thrive in the area that we live in.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of people talk about corporate values and also personal values. I really like, what is that? Like a generational value of wanting to see the next generation of your community, your region, succeed and grow.
Yeah, just to see the whole area thrive because we're doing a good job. There's no satisfaction in the wrong candidate starting for an organisation for the wrong reasons, and either A, taking them backwards because it takes a long time to figure that out and then to replace them, or B, for the candidate because it's not the right organisation for them. And then, in some cases that can be incredibly impactful on their confidence levels and on themselves. There's no satisfaction in any of that. What you want is the right fit. And so for us, that's incredibly important to our value set. It's doing it for the right reasons. I mean, we're a commercial entity. We're a successful commercial entity, but we believe that the growth comes on the back of doing a really good job in the right way for clients and candidates.
Yeah. So that's the motivations of Cathedral. Let's take a step back. I'm interested in why you chose to go into recruitment after a successful career in tech and IT leadership. I don't love the phrase, but people often fall into recruitment. It's their first job, or they try a couple of jobs. They find that recruitment is a good one for them, and they grow within the industry and they stay in the industry for decades if they're successful. You've had success elsewhere and chosen to come into recruitment. So talk us through your motivations.
Yeah, and I think there's probably still some reflections for me to do over time on my motivations. But fundamentally, working in tech, I loved my career in IT and tech. But the bits I loved most were the people bits. It was the developing people. It was solving problems mostly at an organizational structure level, and then through those problems actually helped me to grow and develop the business. And it was, I wouldn't say I enjoyed my recruitment the most, because I don't think I particularly did, because I worked with a mismatch of different recruiters, and it was only when I found a really good one that I realized what good really looked like. But certainly that whole piece around understanding the challenges that we as a business were going through, that our clients at the time, where their challenges were. So looking at it through the business lens, and then looking at it through the people lens in terms of how people could fulfill their career aspirations. They were the things I enjoyed most. So at the point where I decided to get off the ever faster treadmill of life that was taking me away from where I live now and up to London and up to the Midlands, I just decided to step back and start to have some conversations with local businesses. And I felt really disconnected from the business community that was here. So, through by meeting Joe, so you could say it was by accident. I think accident is probably too big of a stretch, because I think I was looking for the right thing, and there was quite a few opportunities there. And when I got to understand a little bit more about what I wanted for myself and the impact I was going to have in my region as the next phase of my career, the recruitment side of things it just became the right place for me, because I can have a positive impact. One of the big issues that we have in the Southwest is access to talent. And by playing a position in the role that I play in the organisation that I'm playing, I can at least surface some of that talent, or help surface some of that talent to the businesses, and I can help surface the business community to the talent that's here in the region, who in some cases, we've got Exeter University on our doorstep. In some cases, the students leaving will not see a career in the region, but it's because they are not aware of the rich tapestry of very successful businesses that are here. So through that, I can have a really positive impact, I believe, over a period of time, and play a small part in just the whole business ecosystem here, so that fundamentally, if my children, and I've got 3 children, they'll all decide that they want to live in different parts of the world, which is absolutely fine. But fundamentally, if they do decide to have careers in this region, they won't feel they've got to get on the 6:52 on the 6:52 train on a Monday morning and go to London or go to the Midlands or leave. Hopefully, we'll have done a little bit to surface the businesses that are here and the opportunities that exist.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a really interesting answer. I think one of those things is, business is hard. You've been a COO. You're trying to do everything, and it's hard, just to get the basics right. So you're pretty happy if you got the basics right. So in terms of, let's say, marketing your business, goal number 1 is market your business to your clients. So as you say, there are some great businesses in the Southwest, and they are struggling, as everyone does, to talk to their clients, who probably, for the most part, aren't recent graduates from Exeter University, for example, or 18-year-olds looking for apprenticeships. So that they're really focused on how do they communicate to their clients. So I think what you're saying is you are able to communicate a different message to a very different audience that's equally important. It doesn't sell the product initially, but it helps grow that business, because it takes, as you say, it surfaces knowledge about that local business to the people who are the future of that business.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's when you're, and I know it, because I was doing it. When you're running a business, you're absolutely right. You don't have a minute from the time you start at the beginning of the day to the time you end. And actually, you're usually going to bed thinking about work, because you're trying to solve reasonably, what seem like big problems at the time. In the scheme of the world, they're probably not, but they're important to you, and they're important to the team and the people who are earning an income off the business. Marketing yourself so that actually you're an attractive proposition to future employees who might not even be thinking about you today or tomorrow, but who might need you for the 3rd or 4th or 5th stage of their career. That's not even on your radar. So it is trying to think of it through that lens, and also making sure that candidates have got a good experience that they can come to, and they can start to understand what is that tapestry of businesses that might exist locally that might not have the right role for them today, but may do in the future.
Yeah, I love that. And all of us have to think of our future at some level. And if you're in a region and you think, right, what are my opportunities? You want to be able to think, oh, here's my opportunity today, tomorrow, but in 10 years' time, I can see myself there. Yeah. Not, as you say, in London.
Yeah, and that's one of the fundamental, I think, challenges that our region has is a lot of people can see first job and they can probably see second job in the region. What they can't see is 3rd, 4th, or 5th job. So it takes them away from the region, and therefore we have a little bit of a talent drain. So trying to just be part of something that's trying to drive and help organizations thrive. It's a fun place to be. It's a very satisfying place to be. And I get to do all of the things that I enjoyed when I was working. But I'm not in a tech business. I'm actually running my own business now. So there's a lot of boxes that it ticks for me. And I enjoy it. I'm a big believer in you spend a lot of time at work. So if you're not enjoying it, you need to do something else. I love what I do, and I love the team that I work with and how we approach the challenges that we've got.
Brilliant. Well, I'm glad you've made what sounds like the right choice. Welcome to your new career. Yeah. Seeing as you've come in from a different industry, I really want to kind of get your views on, how things look from the outside, or how they look to an outsider coming in. Because as I say, a lot of us started in the recruitment industry in our 20s and have worked our way up. So it's really interesting to get those outside views, especially from someone who understands the internal workings as well. So as you've learned more about recruitment, what surprised you most about the way recruiters present their services and their fees?
The biggest surprise was how recruiters undervalue the value that they add, without a shadow of a doubt. The knowledge, the insight, it was completely undervalued. And how recruiters, certainly in those early stages when I came into the recruitment business, were really quick to discount their fees because there wasn't, and this might be the wrong word, but there wasn't a sense of belief in the value that they added to the organization. There was almost, an apology for where they were pitching the fees, yet the service that was being delivered is stunning. The value that it's adding to an organization is unbelievable. And I think that's possibly because certainly a lot of the recruiters I'd worked with in those initial years where they were, recruiters through and through, that's where they started their careers, and they'd come up. So not having that perspective of actually you save a hiring manager time. The insight you can give on the salary benchmarking is invaluable, because if they want to go and do that themselves, that's probably a half day's worth of work. The practical conversation around the best way to run the interview process, that's all value additive to a client. And the recruiters that I worked with just did not see where they were adding that value, and therefore underplayed. And in some cases, almost played a little bit subservient to the client rather than really backing themselves. And I'm not suggesting that you flip it the other way you go to arrogance, because I don't think that's right either. But you asked me what was the thing that surprised me most. That has absolutely, and continues in some cases to surprise me.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not becoming more arrogant. It's becoming that expert partner, and owning that position, and then therefore, behaving in a way that you say, look, I can help you here. I can help you with something valuable. This is my price. This is how we will work together. And if you're not ready for it, if you don't want to work to those terms, you don't get to work for me. That's not arrogance. That's saying I have a service to give. And do you want to? Yeah. So belief. I love that. I mean, I see it so often. It's a very human trait. We see people undervalue themselves in many walks of life. But absolutely it happens to recruiters, especially if they've been in recruitment the whole time and are almost treated like recruiters. And I mean it isn't helped by the fact that go back to our barriers of entry are so low in the recruitment industry that you can have a lot of competition out there that is charging considerably less. The challenge is they're delivering considerably less as well. And so understanding the value proposition that you bring to the market, and then standing behind that and saying, do you know what, if this isn't right for you, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, then that's okay. That's absolutely fine. But this is where we're at. I think it was Greg Savage said, I went to one of his events last year, and he said, if a client wants to find a recruiter that's charging 10%, you could say to them, well, give me an hour and I'll find you 6. But if you want to find a recruiter that's doing an exceptionally good job, that's going to take me a lot longer. Because actually, you can always get to the lowest common denominator, but actually getting to the right service level where it's really value additive is a different place to be. Yeah, I think that's a great message. Everyone is talking about AI-powered recruiters, but what does that actually look like? With Atlas as your CRM, it means every interaction with your candidate is automatically captured and searchable. If they mention their salary in an email, it's instantly recorded without you having to write anything. And behind the scenes, Atlas discovers every company that a candidate has worked for, the industries those companies operate in, as well as things like company size and description. All this means you can do your job much faster and add more value to your clients. To learn more about Atlas, go to recruitwithatlas.com. What would you say to a recruiter who's been in the industry a long time and it feels like they are in that rut of, feeling they have to discount, sometimes feeling, for whatever reason, they end up on the subservient end of the relationship. So you've come in, you are going into the same situations they are. You are now pitching to your clients. How does that experience feel to you? Presumably you go in with that belief you've talked about. And what outcomes are there?
Yeah, so what I've seen across our business over the last 3 or 4 years is a market shift in terms of how we present ourselves, in terms of how we operate, and then in terms of how the numbers are, the numbers that come out of the back of that. So our fees percentage-wise have increased, in terms of just from I won't say what X to Y is, but they've gone up 4 or 5%. In terms of where they're at now, so that's a marked shift from where we were previously. But more importantly than that, we work predominantly exclusive roles now. So when I joined, most of the roles, I would say 88% of the roles that we were recruiting for were multi-agency. That's completely shifted. So more than 50% of the roles that we work on now are not multi-agency. They're exclusively with us. So our fees are higher, and our fill rate as a result of that is much higher because we're working the roles on an exclusive basis. And it's down to small things. If a client won't meet us on their site to have the initial briefing conversation about the role and show us around, then actually, if they're not prepared to put that time and effort in, we will say, actually, the role's not for us. Because fundamentally, how can we represent the client to a candidate if we haven't touched and felt the environment that this person is going to be walking into? And even if they're going to be working fully remotely, we still need to see the culture of that organisation, or touch and feel a little bit of the culture of that organisation. And if the hiring manager isn't prepared to do that conversation with us, which is probably 45 minutes to an hour of their time, then how in God's name can we trust? And trust is probably too strong a word, but we can't assume that they're going to review CVs and give us feedback swiftly. And if they're not doing that, then how do we make sure that our candidate isn't wasting their time through a process where a hiring manager might be really, really slow in the process? So it's all of those sort of things that we do. It's not just one thing. And I think probably because I've come from an external perspective, these are the things that I valued in the recruiters that I worked with that are exceptionally good with me. And it wasn't the recruiter that took me to lunch, because you can take me to lunch, but you haven't touched and felt my business. You've just had a nice lunch. And we've probably talked about nice things, but that's not the culture of the organisation that I'm working in. You've got to go in and touch and feel some of the business and just understand what they're trying to do, where they're trying to take the business, and what questions they might have for us, and stepping through that in a really considered way. If you've got a client who's doing a briefing call out to 4 agencies and they're doing it on a Teams call at 9:00 in the morning and it's done at 9:25, it's probably not the right role for us, and we will select out of a lot of that. So I think we have been more discerning about who we work with, and that has helped us deliver greater results for the clients and for the candidates, and as a result has made the business more successful, and made the team fundamentally happier because they're working roles that actually they've got more ability to deliver the good outcome on.
Yeah. I mean, that commitment, what we're really talking about is clients agreeing to more, which only comes when they can see that we believe in our value. Mm-hmm. So if they say, wow, I can tell that you believe in what you do, therefore as a client, I am more willing to believe that you are an expert. You are someone who can help me strategically with the big problems I have. Once I'm at that point as a client, that's when I say, okay, yeah, if I have to pay a little bit more, as you say, might only be 5% more in pound terms. And okay, commit to you, give you either full exclusivity or a period of exclusivity. I'm more willing to do that because you've shown that belief in your value. You jump to the outcome, which is great. A happier team. I know some of them were experienced recruiters already, if they were doing kind of the traditional approach to recruitment, as a recruitment leader yourself, how did that process feel? Taking a team from kind of the traditional way of doing it, maybe with a lower belief. How did you go about instilling more belief and getting them to do difficult things like say no to clients who weren't committed?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because I think coming in new to the organisation, and then you can be a little bit, well, we'll do it this way, when actually, really and truly, you haven't earned your stripes. So because it's myself and obviously my business partner, so who's been in the recruitment industry for 30 odd years, it was I guess with a little bit of me being the grit in the oyster around, hang on a second, why are we doing this for free? And Joe saying, actually, this doesn't feel right. We need to be, we are at the top end of the pyramid here. We need to be shifting ourselves. So the coming of the minds of both of us in terms of that whole piece was the critical component, because I think if I'd just come in as an outsider myself to traditional recruiters, I don't think it would have worked. So I would say the success has come on the back of probably three key things. Joe leading from the front in terms of doing it and demonstrating that it can be done, and particularly on the retained side. That was definitely a big part of it. We had a number of new members into the team who really embraced it and who hadn't necessarily come with recruitment backgrounds. They'd come with sales backgrounds and joined and have taken to it incredibly well and do super jobs, and who were unapologetic about where the fees were being pitched at, and unapologetic to clients in a professional and very courteous way. If they didn't get feedback on a role or feedback on a CV for 10 days, then very politely saying, well, we're going to close the job now. And some of that, which helped everybody see that actually this can be done, and it doesn't fall flat on its face if you do it. And then the third piece is probably the value that we've added through the systems set and how we operate. And I guess that's what I brought to the business, was a different lens in terms of, are we using all of the right tech or processes out there in terms of how we can find candidates in the right way? Are we looking at the return on investment we get for this or that or the other? And therefore, is there a different way for us to spend some of that money? And so I'm quite data driven. And as a result, we're able to see some good insight from that, which just helps us see that actually, across the team, well, actually average fees in this area might be here, but average fees over here might be there. And the fill rate over here might be, so you're bringing people on the journey, and we're not a KPI driven business by any stretch, but we use it as good insight to help us make some good decisions. And I think that's the external element of it that has helped us along the way as well.
Yeah, I think a lot about change management, because we have to change the way we do pricing in recruitment. And yes, it doesn't have to, the data doesn't have to be part of KPIs for it to make a compelling case.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, look, we can do better, then if you're saying to your team, look, someone already is doing better, or this client is perfectly willing to pay more than anyone internally expects us to charge. Well, let's look at that. Let's look at why we're doing that. So it's building that business case to make that change happen.
Yes.
Rather than, as you say, coming in new
and we started the change journey, in the little bit of the post-COVID boom, when actually there was a lot going on. There was a lot of incoming business. There was a lot of activity in the recruitment market. The last 12 months has been different. It's been a flatter period of time, but in some ways that's helped us consolidate quite nicely. And it's helped us be that little bit more discerning, and it's helped us make sure that the things that we're working really are going to make a difference to us, rather than being just busy fools. So while, in some ways you could say it's been a tough 12 months, for us in terms of transforming and that change management piece, it's been a very productive period of time for us. And it's meant that some of the systems and processes changes that we've been able to put in, we've had time to embed, because we're not running around like headless chickens. We've had to use them because that's what's given us the outputs that we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, change is almost harder when people are busy and feel successful.
Yeah.
They say, hang on, don't disturb me, I'm billing here.
Yes.
Whereas, for you with the timing, you can't change market timing, clearly.
No.
But what you are able to do is put those foundations in place so that the next time there is a boom, and welcome to recruitment, there'll be a lot of booms and busts.
Yeah.
But every time there's a boom, you're getting the most committed clients, and you're getting them to pay you the fees that you decide.
And I also think that there's a lot of, change going on within recruitment generally. I mean, there are so many different places where people can advertise roles. And there's so many different places where people can put their CVs, and there's so much competition out there. So us understanding that actually, 6 out of every 8 placements that we do is because we've matched the candidate for the role. The candidate hasn't applied for that role. We've matched them. We've gone out. We found them. We might find them in our own database because we've got a big database of our own candidates, or we might find them externally. And if we are finding them externally, we understand where we found them. We understand how we've gone through that process. So that, again, I think has helped our consultants see, I really am an expert in what I do here. It's not like you came into, 20 years ago when you would have walked into the door on a morning and you'd had a pile of CVs that the postman would have delivered in. It's not like that anymore. It's much more nuanced. And the CV and what the CV says is I would say 20% of the job find, of the finding of the candidate. It's the nuances of everything else that goes around it. It's how they articulate themselves in the conversation, how they respond to off the cuff, telephone calls. It's how they articulate themselves on an email. It's what they tell you about what their aspirations are and what they don't want to do. It's everything else that goes around that. That really good recruiters understand and are inquisitive about, and want to spend the time to get to know.
Yeah, I really like coming back to our theme of belief. The example you just gave there, you had the data. So 6 out of 8 placements aren't made from applicants. It's you proactively matching people, combined with that confidence in your process. So actually you're good at doing that matching. Yet when you say it like that, it's clear that anyone coming into Cathedral would say, great, I follow this process. These are my numbers. You sit in front of a client.
Yep.
You're going to show belief in what you do because you understand what you do.
That's exactly it.
Really like that. You talked about the recruitment industry as a whole. So I'm going to ask big, difficult questions. Okay. You've opened the door. How do we make recruitment more valued? So really big question. We talked about client perception. How do we get clients to really value recruitment more?
So I really don't have the answer to this one at all. And I'm still trying to work it through in my mind. I think one of the challenges, and I've said it, I think twice on this, I think the barriers to entry to recruitment are too low. I think anybody can set up tomorrow and be a recruiter and have no experience and just set up a good website and away they go. And I think as a result of that, we have clients out there who will have had a bad experience.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen, because you will get people, even if they're the most well-intentioned individuals, they won't have the skills and experience. And you'll have clients that will make quick decisions because they like the person that they're buying off, because people buy from people. So I think that is a challenge for the recruitment industry as a whole. I think for us as a recruitment specialist in the region we're in, we just need to continue to do what we're doing exceptionally well and share the insight and share the data. And we can only change the perception of those clients who are willing to listen to that. I think changing the perception nationally or internationally or anywhere else, I don't know how we do that. I think it's the good recruiters continuing to do an exceptionally good job and shout about it. And over time, then perceptions will change, and hiring managers and business leaders who experience good will go back for good. I think that's about all we can do, because there isn't a silver bullet here in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, I thought you were going to solve that for us.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I continue to think about it, but I think I always come back to stay in our lane, do what we do exceptionally well, continue to believe in it and be proud of it, and that plays its part in the small world of recruitment and perception that's out there in terms of clients and how they look at recruiters.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I think by focusing on what you can control, you will make that even better. I'm also aware that I think we've all done it either personally or professionally. You find a good supplier, you find someone good to work with, you make a mistake and you think, oh, maybe I can get it cheaper, maybe I can do it myself even, God forbid. And you make that mistake and you go, oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
And you want to make it easy to go back to the expert and say, yeah, fine. They cost 10% more than the mistake than the enthusiastic amateur, but I need someone who really knows what they're doing. So the more we can communicate that, the more good recruiters can say, I am a good recruiter. Yeah. Here's how. I think that's certainly valuable.
Yeah, this is what good looks like.
Following that theme, one thing I talk about a lot is differentiating, standing out from the crowd, and it is a crowded market of recruitment. You have your niche, your Southwest geography, and then I know you focus on specialist markets within that as well. Mm-hmm. But even then, there are competitors in all of those. How do you make Cathedral Appointments and Cathedral Tech stand out from other agencies?
I think it is in everything that we touch. So it obviously starts with our people and having the right people engaging with clients and candidates. For us, if I think about a recent client that found us on Google and came to our website, a regional business, called in and had a conversation with us, and the conversation went along the lines of, and I think we were the fourth recruitment organisation that they called. Well, we'll need to come and meet you. We'll need to come and sit down. We've got a couple of experts here. You're recruiting for a couple of different roles. We'll need to come and meet you. And we've followed through that process. They've since signed terms with us on an exclusive basis and given us 3 or 4 roles. She said to me that the standout reason that she wanted to meet us or see us was because we insisted that we couldn't talk to them unless we went to the site and met them. So we can have conversations over the phone and all of that stuff and share at a high level the service offering, but fundamentally, and 3 of us went out and met because we've got 2 experts who were taking the 3 roles, and then I went as well. And she said that was standout for her in terms of none of the other agencies. They were all prepared to take a job spec, telephone briefing, 10 minutes, bish bash bosh, done, and they would go and recruit. And fundamentally, we just don't believe that. We don't believe that. We don't believe we can recruit effectively for, if your people are your most important asset to your business, your recruitment partner needs to understand your business, even if it is at a reasonably superficial level, but at a level that actually we've met them, we've shaken hands, we've seen the whites of each other's eyes, we've had a conversation, and you're starting to build that relationship. So for me, that's a big part of it. And then, I think the other differentiator for us, and this goes through everything that we do, it's not a placement for a placement's sake. That's just not the way we operate. So it has to be the right placement for the organisation and for the candidate. That's the bit, and that's why we have such a low fallout rate. And we're an incredibly successful business. So it plays into it, but it's got to be the right role, right candidate, right organisation. And everything that we do plays into that right outcome, because fundamentally that's what gives us a kick, that's what gives us the belief, that's what gives us pride. And there's a lot of organisations out there that just want the sale, whatever the sale looks like, and that's fine if you're selling a widget. But people's hopes and dreams sit as part of their career, and we take that incredibly seriously. And people are looking to build their businesses on the back of the people who are joining it. And we take that part incredibly seriously. So I think that's why we're able to differentiate ourselves.
Yeah, well, and we just talked about elevating the perception of recruitment as a whole. Clearly, you are doing that in the way you're saying that and your beliefs in that. Just coming back to the commitment, we talked about fill rates earlier, which come from getting the client to commit to you. So
yes.
commitment for me is exclusivity and or upfront fees, whether it's called a retainer or something else. That example you just gave was really powerful. You committed to the client. No other agency in that example gave more than 10 minutes to the client. You gave 3 people going out on site. So I guess a finance director or an ops director might say, well, hang on, that's the best part of 1 people day. That's 3 people prepping, going out, meeting, travel time, etc. But the outcome of that is multiple roles, a partnership, because the client sees your commitment and says, great, we're on a journey that starts with you committing. We are willing to consider committing back. So I think that's probably a really useful message. People listening to this thinking, how do I win retainers? Or God, how do I get better fill rate through more exclusivity? Someone's got to start showing that commitment. And the only thing we can control is whether we do it.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And do you know what? If you're sitting in a business and you're really busy and somebody says to you, I want to come out, I want to understand your business. Can you give me an hour of your time? People love talking about their own businesses and doing a little bit of showing off. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's fabulous. And somebody showing an interest in what they're trying to do and how they're trying to grow and what, what's important to them because they're looking to grow the team. I think that's hugely valuable. And I think that's where absolutely recruiters like ourselves, all up and down the country, we should be spending more time with our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great message. And you've talked about those outcomes there. Yes. They're hugely impactful outcomes if you do that. It's been a fascinating conversation. We could carry on forever. I'd love to, but we will. I'm aware of your time. One final question. Clearly I'm interested / obsessed with the value of recruitment, the value you're creating. Clearly you're creating that value. Our prices are a way of measuring that value. And of course, how clients negotiate with us is another measure of, do they see that value in the prices we present? So as you've gone on that value journey, as you've instilled more belief in the team and probably in yourself in terms of recruitment and how to do it and those processes and that data. How does it now feel negotiating with clients? Has things changed, or how do clients react to you sitting down with them in the ways you've described?
So in most cases, the clients don't, there isn't, they want to understand reasonably early on in the process what the fee structure looks like. But in most cases, they understand that actually the fee structure or the fees that we will charge is because we believe in ourselves and we will deliver a good outcome for them. And we will communicate effectively throughout. So if we can't fill a role, we will tell a client we can't fill a role. And we'll tell them the why. So I think in lot, and this is definitely, I won't say gotten easier because that sounds a bit cocky, but we've got better at it, shall we say? As every quarter has gone on over the last 2 years, we've gotten better, more confident at it, more belief, and that's seen through the data that we've got, and the conversations have become easier for us because of that belief. So in terms of having the conversation, I think if you have the conversation just through the lens of cost, then you're in the wrong place. What we are much better at doing now is talking about the whole process that we go through and articulating the value that we add throughout the process, so that when it comes to the point where they're looking at it, they're thinking about the cost, actually it's only a small part of the outcome that they're going to get. And therefore that journey for us has become easier and easier. I still think there's points where we're clunky. So I still think we've got some work to do on our own journey with that, but that's part of the evolution that you'd have with anything like this. But yes, by and large, the conversation is never just about money. If somebody rings me tomorrow and says, or if I answer the phone and it's an inquiry, what's your fees? we won't give them necessarily that answer without having a long conversation around, hang on a second, before I give you that, I need to talk you through what our process is and some of the insight that we've got in the marketplace. And in some cases, I will add in, that stat, and this is over the last 5 months, 6 out of 8 placements are there because we've actually matched the candidates haven't applied. Because I think you need that insight if you're going to make a decision on cost.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to make a decision on cost and you believe it, you can just pick one of the applicants for a job you put on a job website. £250 is how much it costs to put an individual job ad on a major job board. So why on earth are you thinking about spending 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 plus with an agency? So absolutely, you need to be changing that the conversation.
And also, if the client out there is just interested in cost, then they're not the right client for us, and we will select out of that quite quickly. Because actually, if you're just looking at through the lens of cost, then you're not going to value our time. You're not going to value the effort we put into getting you the right candidates. You won't review the CVs. You won't give candidates feedback. All of those things that are really important, because actually we sit in the middle of a marketplace and our candidates are just as valuable in terms of how we treat them, and they're just important to us. So if we've got candidates and we can't give them candidate feedback, that does not make us feel good in any way, shape or form. And those clients, we'll actively say to them, actually, we're going to close your job because you're not prepared to give us candidate feedback. We just can't work this anymore for you. And you'd be surprised how many jobs come back on, or candidates, hiring managers sit up and take note when you do that.
Yeah, I love it's a great outcome. You've talked about how you've driven more belief in your value. And the outcomes are you've given us the figures. Thank you for being open with those. But also, that feeling that negotiation is less hard. Let's say,
yes, it is less hard.
It's not. It's a horrible thing to negotiate. It's not an easy process to negotiate with anyone about anything. Least of all your fees when you're trying to get paid for work you're doing. But to know that is an outcome that's possible. I hope will give more recruiters hope. A bonus question, if you don't mind. Let's flip you back. Let's take you back to when you were a COO in charge of hiring across the business. How did you negotiate with recruiters back then?
Oh, so I mean, you got to go through different phases of my career. So there were points in my career where I was the most awful hiring manager. I would say, just chuck it out to half dozen agencies and see what they come back with. So I was there. I was absolutely there. And I do recognize the error of my ways now, and just how I would have. And I genuinely believed at that point that we had a hiring issue in the region, and it wasn't a hiring issue in the region. It was our approach to recruitment that was just so misguided. It wasn't funny. When I was COO, I was working in the Midlands, and we were recruiting, particularly in the tech and engineering space. I partnered with a couple of agencies, one in London because we had some people recruiting into London, and they were regional specialists, and spent quite a bit of time with them to try and make sure that we had the right outcomes. Would I put myself in terms of partnership level with a big P? No, I think I was probably still too transactional. And I think the advice I would give to anybody out there who is looking to recruit is, do your due diligence, find a good recruitment partner, and actually, treat them like a partner with the right input from your side as a hiring manager, so that they're thinking about you through their days, through their weeks, because they want to fill your roles for you, and they want to fill them with the right people.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you for the whole conversation. It's so valuable to hear someone who's got both sides of the equation, and your honesty about not potentially being the ideal hiring manager, but how you've gone on that journey, and now at this point of your career, your second career, you not only see that value, but you're driving that value, increasing that value, and getting that message out in a really incredible way. So thank you so much for sharing so much, Clodagh.
Thank you, John. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, that was a really eye-opening conversation. Thanks again to Clodagh for sharing her experience and insights. 3 things stood out for me. First, her ideas on how to build really strong relationships with clients and showing commitment to clients in order to get commitment in return. Second, the way Clodagh sees recruitment as a key way to create a thriving local economy where her children are able to see great opportunities and local businesses can engage with new local talent. And third, the value of being able to explore recruitment through the lens of a hiring manager who is now a recruitment partner to other hiring managers. If you found the show valuable, please leave a review and remember to subscribe or follow the show on your podcast app. You can also get more insights and inspiration by signing up to my added value emails on Substack. You can find the link in the show notes. Now, go create some value. Thank you to Atlas for sponsoring the Value of Recruitment podcast. To learn more about how Atlas is creating an AI platform that helps recruitment agencies generate more placements with less effort, visit recruitwithatlas.com.